Welcome to the Men's Lifeline Academy, where we bring on scholarly men who are helping others to and their friends, families, and communities to really level up, to help them through life since life is full of challenges. Today, I have Lincoln, who's the author of Father. Lincoln, I'm so glad that you're able to today.
Thanks for having me.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about who are
Um, there's a lot to say. Um, I'm going to hit 40 in September, so almost quite a few decades under my belt. I've got four kids, ages 4 to 10. Um, been married 17 years. Um, grew up in the DC area, went to college in Georgia, met my future wife there. She was from Alaska. So I bought a one-way ticket after we graduated and we got married a year later. Um, I really wanted to leave, get out of there. I didn't like the long winters. It was super dry. It's a small city, Anchorage. And, you know, that was not God's plan for me. He wanted me to stay. So after like 2 or 3 years of trying to leave and it not working out, I just ended up being like, okay, let's make this work and make it enjoyable. Found a job I liked. Um, Ended up uh, joining a church, getting involved. And it was like, oh, I really like it here. There's like no traffic, there's no commute, everything's close, you know, it can be, and it's beautiful up there. So I lived there until the end of 2022, moved down here in Texas for work, and I've been here ever since. Yeah, four kids. We have a lot of fun with that. So a lot of my content is geared around parenting, just things that I've learned, um, you know, patience, dealing with behavioral problems, how to train your kids, your girls, your sons. So yeah, that's just something that I think about often because I'm in the thick of it, as you can imagine.
abs? Of course. So, what was that like? Like, what led you to going on social media and developing a following and then becoming like an author?
um I think at first it was almost like a journal, like just a way to get out thoughts. But then kind of once I started doing that, and knowing other fathers, parents, I was like, I bet there are parents out there that have experienced or going through struggles that I've gone through that maybe I can kind of speed up the process for them, right? Pass on some stuff that I've learned that maybe might help out other dads, other parents. So I was like, oh, I'll just lean into that. And then also do some fitness stuff. I used to be pretty out of shape, um, not like super fat or anything, but um, it was like, when you're a parent, you it's really better if you're in shape. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have more patience. You're going to be able to play with your kids more. So I kind of talk about both.
So, what was the turning point for you from making that decision to getting out of shape, even if it's like a little bit out of shape, to really having the mindset to focus on growing to get into shape?
Um, I think it was after our fourth kid. It was our fourth kid? Yeah, I think once our fourth was born, it was, I realized, I'd come home from work and not really feel like playing with my kids. Was tired. Um, had like back issues, low energy, and it was like, I don't want to be this kind of dad. I want to be fun and energetic, and I want to be different. And it was like, okay, I need to change my diet. I need to get stronger. Um, because otherwise, like, I just like I had to make a change because otherwise, like nothing's gonna get better. So that kind of hit me after my fourth kid was born.
And so what's it like now, almost turning 40? Do you have more energy you did now than, let's say, 6 or 7 years ago?
Oh, for sure. Um, yeah, it's a lot different. I've kind of gone through phases where I've, lost a bunch of weight and then I was kind of thin. And it was like, all right, well, I need to put on muscle. I need to get stronger. So I've been lifting like 4 or 5 times a week for probably 3.5 years. Um, and yeah, I mean, the difference is like night and day. You can just pick up several kids at once. Like everybody wants to be carried up to bed, and then now it's easy. Whereas before it was like, oh, I don't want to, my back hurts, and stuff like that. So it's a lot different. And then, kids want to play when I get home. Let's go play soccer. Let's go play tag, stuff like that. So it's a lot, it's a lot different, you know.
So, with X being more of like a journal, is that what also the book came to be? It's more like a journal, it's like your life story and everything?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to put a lot of my stuff all into one place. I mean, it's fitness, it's fatherhood, it's also marriage. A lot of people I've noticed, it's easy when you have kids, several kids, to kind of put your marriage on the back burner,
Hmm.
right? It's like that you both just kind of focus on the kids. Um, I think it's important to put your marriage first, right? Because otherwise, the kids are going to grow up and then it's just going to be you two. And if you don't have like a strong communication, strong bond, it's going to be suddenly super weird. Like, who is this person? You know? So,
You do hear about the empty nest syndrome.
right. And so I think that's another thing I talk about from time to time is you got to put your marriage first. And really it helps the kids, right? If they're the center of attention, you put a lot of pressure on them, the world revolves around them. Um, then I don't think it works out as well. And then also with your marriage can start to crumble and you're kind of just roommates raising kids together, um, rather than a team united front raising the kids. And then I think also, when you have a good marriage, you're modeling that for your kids. So if they look at you and they see a strong marriage, it's like, oh, well, I want that when I grow up, right? Rather than a disjointed non-team where you're arguing in front of the kids, and that provides stress for them, I think. Whereas like a strong marriage, that's like their foundation, that's their bedrock.
So how do you keep that at the focus, not to lose sight of that, especially in the days, I mean, 4 kids, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think it's just being intentional, right? Backing each other up, not contradicting each other in front of the kids. You're going to have disagreements, but deal with those privately. Making sure that you're spending time one on one, weekly or monthly, communicating about issues every week, mapping out the week, what's going on. What can I do for you? How can I help? Um, basically being intentional about the marriage first, rather than like only talking about the kids, right? Or like when you do go out, it's like don't just talk about the kids the whole time. Talk about each other. Like, how are you? Like, what's going on? That kind of stuff.
Oh, and I think that gets lost, so how often do you and your wife kinda communicate? Is it on a weekly basis or the monthly where you kinda really sit down and maybe, like, have a hard conversation?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Was that a question?
Yeah, that was a question.
Oh, what? So the question is, how often do you
First,
have a hard
like
conversation?
yeah, more so around the conversation, like, how do you especially with 4 kids, having a busy schedule, you're working full time, how do you be intentional when it's, like, that busy day to really keep that weekly or monthly schedule?
I think you just have to plan, you know. It's like things are gonna come up, things are gonna be busy, kids are gonna have events. You just have to plan, right? Otherwise, it just gets moved or, plan it out, get a babysitter, you know, do what you got to do to make sure you have that alone time together, right? And it doesn't have to be huge or big or grand, right? Some people are, it's like, all right, well, we're going to go on a walk for a half hour, right? Or some people, may not have the money or time to go out, right? But at least set a time where it's just you two, right? After the kids have gone to bed. It's like stay up for a little bit and like just bond with each other, talk about what's going on, um, things like that.
Nice. Seems like it's been very helpful, especially for 17 years of marriage.
Yeah, it's like we're not perfect, but it's like gone by so fast. It's like she's 40, I'm 40 in September. It's like kind of wacky. It's like this 17 years. It's like feels more like five, maybe 10. Um, and like she's my best friend. Like we talk about everything. We have a lot of fun. We still laugh a lot. Um, so I put this on X one time. We went out to lunch because all of our kids were in school on like a random Wednesday, and like somebody behind us was like, are you guys married? And we were like, yeah. And they're like, how long? 17 years. And they were like, what? You guys look like you're dating, because we're just having fun, like we're hugging and kissing each other, um and it's like people just kind of assume you're dating when it's like, no, we just like each other and have a lot of fun, you know. It's like, is that weird? It shouldn't be. So
Well, I guess that's how you know you have a happy marriage is when you're just enjoying each other's versus letting the years kind of harden you a little bit, where you just kind of mute or immune to things.
yeah, and I think another thing is like for husbands, really need to watch out for your wife because, if you have kids, your wife is going to be like mentally working 24/7. Like she's always thinking about like everything, and if you're not like kind of taking some of that mental burden away from her, she just doesn't, she's not going to have time mentally to like do other things. And so you can kind of take some of that burden away from her by like planning ahead or taking care of things that she's been doing, or um, be like, hey, you go take a break, I got the kids, don't worry about it, stuff like that. Like moms need breaks. They do, especially, they're used to being on 24/7 because when a baby is born, it's like they are on 24/7. And then if you don't help them shift as that kid gets older, it's like they can't get out of it, right? So you, as a husband, you got to help.
So, how have you found yourself helping, a lot of fathers in that way who are like kind of spent themselves and they have to kind of think beyond themselves to give their wife a break who's been, like you said, on 24/7.
How do you do that? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's how that's what.
Um, I think you need to like know her well enough to see when she's like tired and worn out, right? It's like maybe you're worn out too, and that's where you support each other. Like, hey, you go take a break, or you go take a nap. Maybe it's the weekend, and you're like, just go nap this afternoon. Take a rest. Um, or like, what do you have on your mind that you want to get done? It's like, all right, well, I'll take care of this stuff. Or like, oh, you need some peace and quiet because the kids have been loud for a while and the little ones have just been like all over you, right? It's like, all right, well, I'm going to take all the kids to the park so you can just like be by yourself. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
That's very
Because
powerful.
kids are, especially little ones, they don't have any concept of personal space. They are incredibly selfish. They will ask so many questions. And, I've heard a lot about like moms being all touched out by the end of the day. I think that's a common thing because little kids are just like, mom, 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 like, or like I'll be sitting right next to a kid and like my wife is across the room and they will ask her a question. You know what I mean? Because they came out of her. They've been relying on her their whole life. It's just their natural way of living. And so you kind of have to break that a little bit and be like, no, 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 no. Stop asking mom questions. Like, what do you need? Just to kind of reduce that burden a little
I like that. I like how you're also intentional about getting the kids out of the house so that way
bit.
she
Yeah,
can fully rest.
right. Because I mean, they need that, and it really helps. It helps both of you because then she's going to have more energy to focus on you, right? Later in the day.
No, a lot of wisdom what you're saying about just seeing your wife.
Yeah. Well, it's stuff that I've learned. You know, you don't realize that you need to be doing it until it's kind of like you look at your wife and she's just worn out. You know, and it's like, okay, we got to make a change. How do we make this better? So,
So do you do any coaching or like how are you like helping men just through your books and writings?
yeah, mostly writing. I mean, I've worked with a few men on fitness or parenting stuff like that, but I don't have a ton of time for it, so I haven't really pushed it that much.
Okay. I mean, I can see that you're still making an impact. I mean, you have a good sized following and everything, which is cool because that means people are seeing you and hopefully living through your writing.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. If I help some people, great. But at the very least, I kind of get out some thoughts and help somebody.
Well, as long as you're trying to make an impact and lead someone to their own turning point, making that decision between that crossroad of, when they can really see their wife as a person versus just, well, this is what we have to do. Kind of
Yeah.
bringing it back in, bringing back that touch of reality versus, you know, this, this false reality, if you will. So how has your wife responded to you when you have made all those changes, like giving her a break? How has she like responded back?
Well, I think I've heard it. I've heard it said that wives are amplifiers. Um, one thing I've noticed is the more generous and giving I am to her, the more generous and giving she is to me. So sometimes I'll need a break. I'll be like, I need a nap. I'm just worn out. And she's like, go take a nap. Or after a long day, it's like I just kind of want to sit on the couch, maybe watch some baseball. And like, she's not going to nag me about doing anything. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're not leading, if she doesn't feel supported and helped, she doesn't feel safe or understood. I think those are the wives that are nagging their husbands to get stuff done. So I think that's kind of the telltale sign. If the wife is nagging the husband's not. The wife doesn't feel like the husband is like up to the standard,
Mm,
right? And
right.
I think one key there is like, don't just raise your standard for your wife. Like, yes, you're doing it for her to help her out, but you need to raise your standard for yourself. You have to ask yourself, am I living optimally? Am I leading? Am I like living out to the best of my potential right now? And it's like if the answer is no, then change yourself. I think there's another guy on X, Joel Lopez. He talks about this a lot, right? Don't just change for your wife, change for yourself. And I think the wife will recognize that change in you and the marriage will change.
Yeah. So have your kids mentioned anything, or how have they been different when you've made all these changes to your own life and that they're seeing you to embrace each other, care about one another, and seeing that empathy?
Um, there's some cute stuff that they've done. Um, I remember my 3-year-old. I can't remember which daughter, but one of them. What they're 4 and 5 now, but when one of them was 3, I heard them talking to each other, and one of them said, "I love when Daddy hugs Mommy." I think when they see you enjoying each other, that makes them feel safe and happy. And they've made random comments about like, when I get married, when I grow up, you know what I mean? I think if you have a good marriage, then your kids are like, oh, marriage is a good thing. Whereas the opposite, right? When parents are not doing well, that doesn't really tell the kids that marriage is a good thing. And it is. Marriage is a good thing. There's all these like wacko guys on X talking about, you know, don't get married. And, it's just like, no, like marriage is designed by God to be a good thing. And so if you're pushing away from that, then you're not going to live your best life. Not to put down single people. I mean, some people are called to be single, but I think for the most people, marriage is a really good thing for them if done right. Obviously, some people, it just doesn't work out, you know, and sometimes it's not their fault. Um, make the wrong choice. Some people are just unfaithful. But again, I think it's it's kind of the standard for most people. Um, so,
Yeah. Because as you can see, there's a lot of hurt that can lead people to seeing what something couldn't be a good thing. I mean, people want
mhm.
they've experienced, so it's challenging. You have something that's very good. It's like, well, do you want to be tied down?
Yeah,
I know
and
it's
it's
getting
like you're
more.
just scared of commitment, right? You think it's going to fail, but again, I think if you do it right, it can be wonderful.
Just taking that deep breath and learning from all the mistakes.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think as you enter this next stage of life, what do you think you're going to be learning next, just as you're going into maybe like the 18th, 19th, 20th year of marriage? Like, what do you see yourself growing as?
Mm, it's a good question. Probably more of the same. Staying intentional as things get more busy. When you have younger kids, they're not going to be, they're not going to have a bunch of things going on, right? Um, but as they get older, they're going to have more events, more school things, more sports. And we've always been the kind of people that don't want the whole week chock full. Like we like our downtime as a family, like family dinner every night, reading to the kids before bed, um, praying with them. And so if you get too busy, then some of those things kind of get pushed aside. Um, and so kind of staying with the intentional time together, intentional time with kids, family time together, downtime. Um, but yeah, I think that's a good question. I don't know what I'm gonna learn. I'm sure it'll be something.
Yeah, well,
You know.
sounds like you have a good idea how you want to continue living your life, where you don't want, where you're always busy going. It sounds like the occasional nap, which is always nice.
Yeah. No, I love naps. Love them.
Oh, it's really nice knowing that, because you're right, especially for kids, if they get more involved in school, there's going to be this activity, that activity, or that sporting event to still be together as a unit, to have the family dinners, the praying time, the books, the readings at night.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice knowing that you kind of know what you want already. That's a big step,
Mhm.
stepping stone of it.
Yeah, I mean, we've had times where it's like, oh man, we're so busy. And it's like, okay, we got to drop something, you know, because it's like, we're not, I mean, some people kind of thrive on that. I don't know if it's they don't want to be around their kids or things just get away from them to where they've signed up for too many things. But it's like, we don't want our weeks to be chock full because it's like, then you're just stressed, you know, and you're just constantly in the car, you know. So,
Can't imagine 4 kids in a car if you're going from place to
yeah. I mean, my wife drives the kids to school, and it's like, oof, you know, we've been working on helping the kids get along in the car. It's a process. My wife was out of town last Wednesday to Monday morning, and so I was, you know, they had camp, um, and then I was just, you know, taking care of them over the weekend. And it's like, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I'm glad it's both of us that take care of them, not just one.
yeah, I don't know how people do it by
I don't
themselves.
either. Yeah,
That's a I mean, I've had some fellas on here, and I've said it's even easy.
yeah. But it's like you kind of have to think like, you know, one thing I talk about often is just like having patience, being intentional with your kids because they may not remember all the specific like instances, but they're going to grow up with like a general picture of how things went in their childhood.
Hmm.
So it's like, how do you want them to remember their childhood? Was it dad was angry a lot? You know, mom and dad fought. I didn't play with them that much. Or do you want them to kind of have a general picture when they're in their 20s of, we had a lot of fun. You know, dad was played with us. Mom and dad like loved us enough to create boundaries. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you want to be remembered?
That's a good question. 'Cause having lots of conversations with people, most people remember, whether the parent was there for them or not, versus did they have a new toy? Do they have the latest card game or
Right,
have you? It's like they remember the quality time over
right,
the
right. And I think gifts might be fun for like a day or two, toys, presents. But it's like the long lasting memories are like the day in, day out. How was I treated? How was how was family life? And they're not really thinking about it in the moment, but they will grow up and they'll have like a general sense in their mind of how things went.
Well, it seems like you're on the right track for them to see that they had a good childhood, that you provided, took care of them, and showed a lot of love to your wife. So hopefully your sons will see that and amplify that as well.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, nobody's perfect, but you got to at least have a picture in your head of how you want things to go and then push to make it happen. You know, you'll still make mistakes and snap at them, you know, and you'll have to apologize. But it's like over time, you will get better, right?
Right. Well, that's the key, letting go of that perfection and
Yeah,
enjoying even, hey, even dad gets mad and yells and does something. It's do you come back and apologize and say, hey, what can we do next time?
yeah.
Well, Lincoln, is there anything else that you would want to kind of leave off for someone that's maybe like just starting off a marriage? Like, how would you speak to someone who might be a little bit overweight? They're just starting their marriage. What would you kind of speak to them? Someone who was originally in your place.
Um, you said,
So basically, what do you want to leave off with the audience today?
oh, I think always try to get better. You know, whether it's fitness or marriage or parenting or even your career. You know, it's like don't ever just be okay with where you are. Not in terms of like discontentment or anything like that. Like, you know, celebrate the good stuff, but always be thinking about like where are my weaknesses? How can I get better? If that's fitness, it's like maybe you need to change your eating habits. Maybe you need to hit the gym 3 times a week instead of just once. If it's parenting, maybe you struggle with patience. Maybe um, your kids annoy you a lot, right? It's like dig into that. What are they doing that's annoying you? Maybe it's a lot of times it turns out because they're copying you and you're a smart aleck, or you get worked up about small things. Like figure out where you're failing and then slowly chip away and being more intentional about making that better. And if it's your marriage, it's like, okay, how can we have more intentional conversations, better communication, more time alone, um, things like that. It's like always be like kind of doing self evaluations on where you are, what's good, what's bad, or what is going well, what's not going well, and how you can improve going forward. Um, because you don't ever want to just stay the same. You want to be improving.
Well, you heard from Lincoln, always strive to get better, take
Yeah.
small steps, and you gotta go check him out. So all of Lincoln's, social, his book will all be in the description below. So go check out, go support him. He's a great guy just trying to make an impact in someone's life today to help them be an active father. Because that's what he's about. He has 17 years of experience. That's a lot. Decades. Should be applause that we have someone that is really learning from mistakes and doing the best that they can to improve. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. How will you be an active father today? Well, what step are you going to take today? That's a call to action. And I hope everyone has a safe Lincoln. Thank you again for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.